Hello, my name is Dr. Anthony Rhem. I'm the CEO of Rhem Associates, a consulting, research, and training company out of Chicago, Illinois. I think a business will fall behind if they do not efficiently leverage knowledge management. One of the things that we talked about before and talked about throughout this conference is to be able to have your employees perform better and more efficiently. And at the end of the day, that affects your ability to stay in business. All right, thank you. I want to just back up a second. I know it's right after lunch. This will be the next, 2 or 3 hours? Is that what it is?
4 to 5.
Oh, okay, good, great, thank you. Just to give you guys a premise of what we're going to talk about, knowledge as a service is a paradigm that I've been speaking about for the last couple of years. I'm not, I thought I was the originator of knowledge as a service. Oh man, this sounds great. I just think I made up something. But I found out I'm not the inventor of that term. I just evolved that term. So we're going to get into a little bit of that. And then we're going to kind of switch gears. We're going to talk about knowledge as a service, but how it's implemented through a digital workplace, and give you guys a sample of an initiative that I'm on with an organization, and we're embarking on this journey to implement a digital workplace with elements of knowledge as a service. So, okay. We already know about me. I've been doing this for quite some time, and here I am. Okay. Knowledge as a service. The big thing, we've heard from Zach in the keynote. We talk about how knowledge management and artificial intelligence is coming together, actually blending, evolving. Part of my background is in AI. I received a master's degree in computer science with a specialization in AI back in the late 80s. Right? So I spent most of the 90s developing expert systems, neural networks, things like that. I got introduced to KM later, around 98, 99. I said, oh, wow, this puts a management wrapper around all that knowledge capture, knowledge codification stuff. And I started journeying into knowledge management. So around 2012, I kind of moved back into AI because I saw a lot of synergies continue to evolve. Because when we first did AI back in the late 80s and 90s, you can imagine what we were doing, right? It was more tools from different companies, expert system companies, or neural network companies. We were developing rule-based applications and things like that. But now, the computing power and software power and this thing called big data opened up a lot of avenues for machine learning. And machine learning is a key piece to this paradigm as knowledge as a service. So we're blending both of these together. And on top of that, we want to allow for a cloud-based access anytime, anywhere sort of scenario for people to access knowledge in the organization. So at the end of the day, why knowledge as a service? We actually produce a lot of information knowledge every day. You can imagine your organizations from the email, if you have communities out there that you involved in and writing and interacting with people, your community developing more and more content. Even your daily jobs, developing more content. And so the big thing is, how do we get access to this content? How do we get our arms around it? One of the things we worry about is that proliferation of content just go crazy. So we have to put some governance around it. The other piece is accessing it. How do we get to the right stuff that we need to do our job? So knowledge as a service brings these components together of knowledge management and AI to make that happen. And so one of the things we want to do as knowledge as a service is improve the ability to collaborate, the ability to access the right knowledge at the right time, and to also have the right context around that knowledge that we are accessing. So what are really the aspects of knowledge as a service that we can kind of hang our hat on? So these are some things that I kind of want to bring out in our conversation. And, you guys can, if you have a question, you can interrupt me. Because I have a tendency to keep talking and we may run out of time. But anyway, one, we use a distributed model, right? We want to use that model of being able to tap into that collective knowledge, cloud-based, anytime, anywhere, any device, mobile device, laptop, iPad, phone, whatever. And we're connecting, one thing we talked about earlier, and you've probably been to other sessions here, talked about connecting not only the explicit knowledge, that tangible knowledge, but also the knowledge from people's heads. The people that actually have either developed that content or have used it or have some knowledge about it. So you want to connect with that person too to get that tacit knowledge, because at the end of the day, we can never capture everything somebody knows. We can only capture pieces of that, and then time together with the tacit knowledge gives you that full picture. But how do we do that, right? And one thing that we want to bring out knowledge as a service is the fact that we connect tacit and explicit knowledge and keep it updated and relevant based on our governance around those aspects of our organization. And it's all about the life cycle management of the content and life cycle management of that individual, that tacit knowledge. Because as we know, people move from one position to another or just move out of the organization. So what happens to that tacit knowledge once it leaves? And that's another issue. And so AI helps with what I call knowledge flow optimization. It optimizes how knowledge flows through your organization. And if you, I know we talked about search, and we talked about, okay, what's the best search? Everybody says Google and this and the other. But at the end of the day, when you search for something, you want to be able not to only find that specific thing that you search for, but other related objects as well, including people. And so AI makes that knowledge flow optimized. So you not only find what you're looking for, precisely what you need to do your job or answer a question, but you find those components that are related to it. Also, we want to provide dynamic, accurate, and personal knowledge. Why do we say personal? Personal delivery really speaks to what I want to do at that particular time, right down to the specific nature of what I need to work on. A lot of times we will search for content and we'll find something that, oh, okay, this kind of works for me, and then you would think, well, what other things are related to this that I may need to know? Well, AI will help facilitate that through knowledge as a service. Let's talk a little bit about the distributed computing model, which is facilitated through cloud-based services. Now, we've heard of just about everything as a service, right? Integration as a service, mobile as a service, everything as a service. So the whole idea is to leverage a distributed computing model to be able to access that knowledge of the organization. Imagine if you're a consultant, like myself, and say if you work for a large organization, and a client hires you or your team to do something specific for that client. The ideal is not just the client's not just hiring you, it's the client's hiring your entire organization. And so you will be able to tap into the collective knowledge of that organization through this paradigm, right? So the ideal is to be able to say, for instance, if I'm Deloitte or Accenture, I hire a team from there, they can say, well, I could tap into the entire knowledge of Deloitte for your client, for this situation. And that is a powerful thing in order to be able to solve a particular situation in a timely fashion. And this is one way, I think, is one of the best ways to be able to do that and do this distributed model. The other thing is, we've talked about taxonomies and ontologies and things like that. How many people here, raised by a show of hands, are familiar with information architecture? Okay. To me, that's the glue that connects everything. Information architecture components are about taxonomies, metadata, ontologies, right? It's the power of information architecture comes in the relationships you build between content pieces, including the tacit knowledge that is associated with those pieces. And so ontology management comes as a key feature of knowledge as a service. Some ontology management tools, such as Smart Logic Semaphore, is used to help do this. And information architecture provides that basis and that design to enable that, right? The metadata that you develop and tie or tag to certain documents and things like that. The other question I have for you guys is, when you want to tag documents, how much metadata do you think is necessary? Do you think that people will voluntarily tag the documents? So what is the workaround for that? Metadata validation? Yep, automated tagging. And the other thing that we look for in this paradigm is auto-classification. That's another way to get that out of the hands of the people. However, some things you can't it won't be, it's not a silver bullet. It's not going to solve every particular field. It's not going to fill every particular field, but you want to try and leverage system-generated values within the metadata fields. So to eliminate that user interaction, fat fingering or putting in what they want. If it's a required field, they just put in anything. And quite frankly, if it's required, the 2 or 3 fields required, they'll just fill that out and nothing else. And so you want to have something that is in place to facilitate that. The reason I'm saying that is because ontology management keys off a lot of that metadata. So you have to have all these other pieces in place to be able to facilitate that. And if you peel back the onion a little bit, you have to start with the information architecture. So that's the whole point. Information architecture is the glue to enable all this to happen. I think Zach was talking about that in his keynote as well, when he talked about AI and KM. And so the big thing is, I know you guys seen these diagrams like this, these little circles and donuts and things like that about the flow. But this is really important for your content lifecycle management. I have a little twist to mine, because one of the things that we forget to do sometimes is, once we store the content, we want to use it. Not only do we want to use it, we want to learn from it. Not only do we want to learn from it, we want to update it with those key learnings. And so in that flow contains that sort of connecting and collecting, storing, learning from it, creating it again, or updating it and storing it. So that latest knowledge should be available for the rest of the organization. Okay, so that is very important, that it aligns with you got to have a content lifecycle management process. You want to make sure your knowledge aligns with that. The other piece is, we're going to go a little more detail into the delivery of knowledge. So when we say delivery of knowledge, what are we thinking? Are we thinking communities of practice? Are we thinking accessing a knowledge base? So what are we really thinking about when we say delivery of knowledge? Accessibility, exactly. You got to be able to access it, to be able to get to it, to be able to quote unquote deliver it, right? But then also, you want to access it in a way that it provides what you need. One of the issues that I've run across with some clients is that, okay, we'll make this standard operating procedure available to you. It's a 100-page document. Okay, I get that. Now what? So, knowledge management system, or any delivery of knowledge as a service, you would actually analyze that document and deliver consistent snippets of knowledge that is contained within those procedures. So if I'm on a certain operating procedure on a certain part of the organization for a specific situation, it may point to me right to that chapter and section and paragraph to actually go to without flipping through a 100-page manual. That's one of the ways that we talk about when we want to talk about delivery of knowledge. We want to be able to access it and access it in the right context.
Can I ask?
Sure.
So the way you said delivery, to me, and I'm going to put it in a push-pull context, but to me that means push instead of pull.
That's a good point. That's a good point. That's both. Actually, both. The pull is when you're accessing the knowledge, and like through search or through but we'll talk about this a little bit later. Through an application, you go right to it. If you pushing it, that's AI telling you that, okay, I selected this piece, but okay, you selected that. That's like a Google search. These are the other pieces that you may want to look at or that are associated to that. Because I didn't go in and exactly pull it. I pulled something and all other stuff that related to it was pushed to me. And that's where the ontology piece come in. The ontology gives you, the relationships and things like that. And so AI, machine learning can look at that and say, oh, so-and-so clicked on this. Oh, they might want us to know this, this, and this. And by the way, that's related to this person here based on his knowledge of this particular content. So all those push elements happen once you pull. So that was a great question because it points out delivery of knowledge in both fashions. So that brings you back to, one, that personal piece, right? Because that push and pull combination gives you that personal piece. But the dynamic piece of this is being able to facilitate that type of interaction. And at the end of the day, which I don't want us to walk away without understanding this, the knowledge has to be accurate, right? The one issue that I see in a lot of organizations is the ability, not the ability, but the willingness to want to clean the content, make sure it's accurate, make sure what that you have in your knowledge base or in your content management system is accurate and has metadata tied to it, has all those things that you need to help facilitate the other aspects of your organization. And that, quite frankly, is a very tedious job to go through and clean your content and audit and all those things. But that is a necessary activity for your organization. So we're going to talk a little bit about incorporating artificial intelligence. And one thing I talked about earlier is that we actually are blending AI and KM, right? And so we talked a little bit about the push and pull scenario. And the one aspect of AI that's really is a driving force is its use with big data. And I don't know if you guys know, but 90% of your big data is unstructured data, is content, right? So AI plays a key role in any of your knowledge and content delivery. And so that's one of the things I wanted to bring up, and that's that blending. You're going to hear more and more about the blending of AI and KM as the months and years go on, because with all the different applications and accessing content and tying it all together, it's going to be the two sides of the same coin. Okay, I don't know how much everyone's knowledge is around AI, but specifically, we're talking about machine learning, right? And so for what we want to do, we look at that pillar that says supervised learning. Supervised learning looks for labels with that talks about information, right? Labels on your information and data allows for supervised learning algorithms to be developed. And those are the algorithms that are most in production today. Now, as we move to the right of this, we go into more sophisticated algorithms that don't quite need the labeling. So if you look at semi-supervised learning, that's a combination of unsupervised learning, which is stuff you don't need labels for, the algorithm will create the labels, and supervised learning with labels, because some data you may not have labels for. So And that's a way to build an algorithm to accommodate both. But just want to give you guys just a big picture view of the different algorithms that for AI, specifically machine learning, that you would have to kind of decide on based on what you want to, develop and what kind of questions you want to get answers from the data. So the other piece, I want to kind of bring this up as we kind of go through it. One of the other things in the knowledge as a service piece in AI in particular, AI will affect different aspects of knowledge as a service. And we talked about search earlier. Now, there's some search tools that are very sophisticated that bring in a rule-based or some AI component to enhance that search. It brings in the ontology piece, understanding the relationships between the content. And so AI-driven search, a lot of search products will even say that they're AI-based or have an AI component within the search piece. And I know that a lot of organizations are looking for that. I worked with an Oracle KM product a few years ago, and that's right after Oracle had purchased Inquirer. Inquirer has a real sophisticated search. And so when Oracle bought them, they incorporated that search engine into their knowledge management platform. Real sophisticated, rules-based, AI-based search. It's really was sophisticated. Matter of fact, we learned later that Apple runs a lot of their customer service with that Inquirer-based search engine. And so that's tuned, very, very tightly. It's like metadata galore and, relationship pieces. It's a real intricate ontology-based piece onto that. And it just shows you the level of sophistication that can be accomplished once you start to really hammer out what you want. But of course, you're talking about companies like Apple, they spend a lot of money on those type of things, and that's kudos for them. So that's one of the things on knowledge as a service. The other piece you guys may have heard about is these wonderful things called chatbots. Or maybe it's RSA, RPA, robotic process automation, or intelligent automation. You may have run across that. But see, the thing is, with the bots are getting more sophisticated. It's not just you can type in natural language and go get me what I want. The bots are now learning, right? And then I got machine learning capturing everything that you do. I don't know if you guys got Siri or Google Home or whatever assistant. If you have it in listening mode, it would do things for you sometimes without you wanting them to do it. And so I was in my car and I was driving, and my son, 14-year-old son, was with me, and I was thinking about this song. I couldn't remember the name because I was playing songs around the house, because of course songs that he don't care about. And then my phone started playing the song. I'm thinking, what'd you do to my phone, right? Because the phone was sitting by him. I said, I didn't touch it. Found out my phone was in listening mode. And so I said the name of the song, all of a sudden stopped playing it. I'm like, okay, I hear about stuff happening like this, but never to me. And so the thing is, you got to make sure that, you understand how those chatbots are being implemented on your application. And if the chatbot is a type of application that you must type in, fantastic. But if you know how these other applications are evolving, as soon as you can just say something to the bot, because it's going to interpret what you say, because that technology is available now, and it will go and retrieve the information you need. And so at the end of the day, you see how that chatbot, natural language processing, all of that's AI, right? AI is not just machine learning, it's also those elements as well. But now chatbots with RPA, robotic process automation, are leveraging machine learning to learn from how you use them. So when you type in a keyword or whatever, it would not only find the stuff that you want, it's to find the stuff that it thinks you want as well. It's that push element again. And so more and more companies are doing that. And for just a side note, robotic process automation is really good for those mundane processes that don't change much and can be automated. And when you build a bot, it's like a person, an electronic person. You have to give it access rights, have to give all these different things. And so when you embark on this journey, if you're doing chatbots or robotic process automation, remember, it's like a person. If you hire a new employee, except you don't pay them, but you just, you get access to this system. What's the rights for that? Access to this piece of content. It's just all those access rights. You have to then allow an electronic bot to actually satisfy that. So that's a whole nother conversation. But it just shows you the power of AI and where it's going in our day-to-day interaction with knowledge and artificial intelligence. Now, our conversation is about knowledge as a service. However, it's about how it's implemented. All these great things with AI, chatbots, and ontologies, and all that great stuff. Oh, that's cool, but how do I use it? How do I get to my stuff, right? So one of the paradigms, you may hear this with other companies, digital transformations are happening all over the place. Oh, we want to build a digital workplace. Everything's digital. You may have heard of cognitive digital twins and all this digital stuff. So it's actually reality. People are moving. Everything's moving there. So the digital workplace basically brings out, aligning technology and employees and business processes. You want to improve operational efficiency. One of the things that Zach brought up in his, I pointed to Zach a couple of times because he brought up some points that I really resonate with me. One of the things we want to do with any of these applications is have some ROI, right? Why are we doing it? What's the business reason for it, right? Here we have operational efficiency. We want to improve outcomes. We want to make your staff more efficient. The other thing with digital workplace is enabled by cloud services. And artificial intelligence, one of the pillars of knowledge as a service. And by doing that, it removes that geographic boundaries. Everything on the cloud or the internet, anybody can get to it anywhere. And so you want to be able to have that available for your employees. So at the end of the day, why are we even doing this? Right? Digital workplace is really about the people you work for, work with, and enable us, the workers, the folks that are generating everything for the business, to be able to work more efficiently and to be able to get their job done in a way that's not frustrating. Oh, I can't find this. I don't know where it's at. I've been spending hours looking for this. Or I get the certain thing. Oh, it's out of date. I can't trust this application. Blah, blah, blah. Software sucks, man. So if we get something that put the people first, they're more likely to adopt it, more likely to use it. So see, these are some of the aspects they want to bring up as in the digital workplace, some of the goals. Improve collaboration, work streams through the use of personas. Okay, everybody does different work, and based on your role at the company, you do certain things versus somebody else's role. And so if you have a persona-based application, it's really personal. It's really for that group or that type of worker, and they know that I can do the things I need to do to get my job done. So you want to have productive business relationships, right? The other thing, we talk about it's all this digital, and we kind of removing the face-to-face, but a lot of times that digital relationship, you may be able to reach out to someone that's not geographically located near you, and you'll be able to connect with that person and able to get things done in a way that you wouldn't normally been able to do. So that's another aspect of this. Improve business processes, definitely want to do that, and align with digital transformation goals. So digital workplace, actually, those are the goals for that. Now, you can imagine if you have a digital workplace, you're going to have a digital workforce, right? So If you guys, I don't know what your company's policies are of what's been going on with this coronavirus and things of that nature, but a lot of companies are allowing their employees to work remotely. And if you cough one time in the office, you go home, that sort of thing. And so now we are moving more toward a digital workforce to be able to use this quote-unquote digital workplace. How convenient, right? So digital workplace will provide these aspects for our digital workforce: communication, collaboration, finding and sharing information and knowledge, business applications, right? We'll be able to access the business applications that make sense for us. And we talked about personas earlier. If I'm an IT person, I may want to access a system for one thing. If I'm in HR, I may want to access a system for another thing. If I'm in legal, I want to access a system for entirely something different. And so that will enable us to provide that sharing information, knowledge, and applications through employee self-service. And how many of you guys work in an agile fashion? Everybody's agile, right? Everybody's going agile. So enables agile working, right? We want to be able to be, able to absorb change, work efficiently, move on a dime, and access the knowledge. And this platform helps you do that. Okay, a little bit more about this. And I'm usually, when I'm speaking, I usually walk around, but I decided to stay in one place. Now I'm regretting that. But so these are some of the aspects I want to bring out for the digital workplace and digital workforce. We want to concentrate on strategic planning, governance and operational management. These are all the tentacles behind the scenes that we want to make sure that we pay attention to in order to help facilitate that digital workplace and the digital workforce working together. We want to actually have proactive support. How many would vote for a high-quality user experience, right? Something intuitive. Like the worst thing, you have the best AI in the world, content with all the types of metadata and everything, but if the interface, it's like, what is this? You can't get to it, it's clunky. It just kind of kills the whole thing. And, okay, what's the last point? Security. We have to remember. I mean, I talked to a lot of college grads in computer science, and I tell them, I said, one of the wide open fields and one of the most fast growing fields is computer security, software security. Anything is security, because as we move more and more to the cloud and digital and IoT and smart homes, security. And so that's huge in all organizations, because once you open up those walls for access outside the workplace, security plays a key role. So when we do this knowledge as a service, we have what I call a reference architecture connected to it. We want to be able to do all the things that we've talked about with CAS and the digital workplace, but we want to also take advantage of all the things that Knowledge as a Service offers. All these things we talked about: personal based knowledge, content decisions, improved content decisions, chatbots, natural language processing, all those pieces kind of encapsulate everything we talked about. And we talked about some of the benefits, right? Personalized knowledge access, increased productivity, cognitive capabilities improved. These are some of the things that we need to put some ROI behind as well. I don't think I can talk that fast. But what I really want to get you guys to is this particular, I put in quotation marks, case study, because this is something that's going on. Little history. I didn't spell out, we acronym heavy. I didn't spell out who the IMF is. Anybody know who the IMF is? Impossible Mission Force, what? Yeah, International Monetary Fund. Right, International Monetary Fund. I have the distinct pleasure to be working with an outstanding team, and we're embarking on a journey to implement the integrated digital workplace in the IMF. And it brings into a lot of things that we just talked about, or just been presented about knowledge as a service, right? It holds a lot of those components. And so at the end of the day, IMF is part of their digital transformation, and their initiatives, they put a lot of management support behind, is to build an integrated digital workplace that will be the hub, the conduit for all knowledge across the organization. Remember, I talked earlier about being able to, like for consultants, be able to tap into the entire knowledge of the organization. At the end of the day, the IMF will have a place to tap into all the organizational knowledge. And it's built with personas in mind, like economists and staff researchers, lawyers, things like that. And they have their own view of the digital workplace. And so this is extremely important initiative for the IMF, and it's incorporating, it's interesting because it's really incorporating a lot of things from knowledge as a service. But I want to just highlight some of the key challenges that we're actually dealing with now, right? We want to, one, integrating product capabilities, right? We have a slew of product capabilities, and one of the challenges is being able to integrate them with current applications. We want to be able to develop a flexible and extensible information architecture. We talk about information architecture, the metadata schemas, taxonomies, ontologies, but it has to be flexible. When you start adding more content and relationships into this environment, you don't want to keep starting from scratch. You want to be able to build on top of what you've already designed and keep it moving. We want to understand what artificial intelligence is going to do for us. Where can we leverage that to provide value? Again, we don't do AI for just sake of AI. I want to do something to provide value. Implementing template. I've known some companies I've worked with to try and do this. It's a paradigm that's getting more and more attention. We talked about earlier having, that standard operating procedure being split up into different pieces. Now, at the IMF, we're looking at integrating template and component-based document development. A template that really facilitates the standards that we want to set forth, tied with certain metadata, and brings it through a journey of co-authoring and development, and also those pieces that we can pull out to have people author and then associate that back into the main document. So that's going to be a challenge. And our big challenge is having the agile mindset, right? Because the days of delivering big bang are way over. You want to deliver iteratively, a bit at a time, test it, improve it, make sure it works. The next piece, test it, prove, make sure it works. At the same time, a lot of regression testing, a lot of things to make sure we didn't break as we move forward. So getting not only our team, but everyone that works with us in the agile mindset is also a key challenge. So if we look at the knowledge as a service framework, we see a lot of things going on here. We got capability layer, taxonomy, we're talking about chatbots, AI layer. These are the general pieces of a reference architecture. You could take this and it could be a start for any organization who wants to implement knowledge as a service. Now, if you compare to what we are, now none of this is for the IMF, none of this is a finished product. This is what we are now. And at some point, maybe next year, I'll come back and say, this is what we've done. This is what we've implemented and see how close we were to the beginnings and to what we actually done. So one of the things we have, co-authoring will leverage aspects of knowledge as a service, leveraging AI for understanding how to develop the different segments of a template and the components, information architecture for tying all those together. The roles and rules and procedures, As far as decision management, another AI component. We also would do you got the knowledge management piece, understanding what the working knowledge pieces are. That's the knowledge that we're generating on a day-to-day basis and making sure we govern that the right way and store it and be able to access it. Also translation. In the IMF, we deal with a lot of different languages, and we may have a requirement to translate English to Russian and Russian to German. Who knows, right? We want to be able to handle that. The other thing, of course, is analytics. We want to have capability within the digital workplace to make sure that we can do some predictive analytics and understand what people's needs are and what they're searching for, the content they're bringing up, and improve that as we move forward. And also, we talked about search and retrieval. We have a search engine that we're bringing on board that is facilitated search through a lot of the AI aspects that we talked about. And one of the things that it's going to leverage is ontology management through Smart Logic Semaphore, which is an ontology management tool. Other places, any guys hear about expertise locators, the expert finders? That's one of the huge aspects of this, which is key for sending people on missions, getting the right teams together, the right experts to do what they need to do. And that together, resource finders will combine AI to help accomplish that. And again, language services. So this kind of shows, let me go back. This kind of shows how knowledge as a service is being, components are being implemented on the integrated digital workplace. Questions, concerns? Okay. But this is, like I said, this is an amazing journey, and we're just getting started good, but we have some very exciting things happening. And what I'm showing you now is just some mock-ups. This is not the final system, but kind of gives us a kind of brainstorming ideas, right? Now, we have some things we have done, but this is sort of give you this is a landing page for a person coming on digital workplace. You can see that they have the news, they'll pick the news events that they want to see, the projects that they're on to come up, their calendar, any human resources, and they can then add widgets. We talked about being able to access applications that you need. So based on persona, they can add a widget onto their personal page. This other piece is, say you're an economist and you are working on knowledge for Sweden, and so this brings a specific page that talks about the knowledge that you need, the knowledge flow that you need to walk through to accomplish creating that Article 4 for Sweden. It's very specific information for the IMF economists and staff people when they go out on missions. Again, persona-based, workplace delivery of knowledge, right there in that second level screen of this mock-up that shows how they would work and where they would kind of bring some things together. Now, these two slides just shows you a big picture view of where we are, kind of conceptually. Now, like I said, I can come back a year from now. This is going to be totally different. We'll see how successful we were in that journey. So, a little bit snapshot, the current state. Reference architecture completed, because you saw those other pieces. It's been completed. It's been agreed upon. There's a lot of painstaking work to make sure we had all those pieces together. We got a capabilities model that aligns with that. We got an initial information architecture design that just, again, we are working in an agile, iterative fashion, so we got a piece of it designed, so as we move forward, we could develop more pieces of that. We have core tools for search, auto-classification, and ontology management already available and established, waiting for the next piece is the selection of the technology implementation partner. Now, you can imagine, I'm a consultant, I'm working with IMF, we're working on the initial designs and working out some sort of future look for this platform and getting those elements together so when we do finish the selection process, because we're in that process now, of a vendor, the vendor can come in hitting the ground running with the designs and things that we've come up with. They'll have to still do their discovery period to make sure they're in line, make sure we didn't miss anything, things like that. But it gives you a good jumping off point instead of starting from scratch. You can imagine if all the things we're trying to do with the digital workplace, that it's going to be a real challenging effort to make all this work together. So that is it. All right. So this is me. I have a blog. I've been blogging since 2008. So I got a lot of stuff out there, a lot of articles and things that you may find interesting. My blog in 2015 was a recommended must-read for CIOs. So that was pretty cool. And, feel free to contact me. I'm always at conferences and writing stuff and, all that. So thank you very much. Appreciate your time.